The conference room is sterile and unforgiving. White walls, glass panels, fluorescent lights that hum with cold indifference. 20 pairs of eyes are locked on Emily Carter as she stands at the front, trembling hands gripping her market expansion strategies that could save the struggling marketing department she's poured 3 years of her life into. But before she can advance to her third slide, her boss, Richard Hastings, slams his palm on the mahogany table with a crack that makes everyone flinch. "This is amateur garbage," he sneers, his voice dripping with contempt as he rises from his chair, his expensive suit catching the harsh overhead light. "Did you even graduate college, Carter? Or did you buy your degree online?" Laughter ripples through the room, nervous, cruel laughter that cuts deeper than any blade. Emily's face burns crimson as Richard continues his assault, stepping closer until she can smell his bitter coffee breath. "You're an embarrassment to this company. I don't know why HR keeps dead weight like you around. Clean out your desk. You're done here." The room falls silent. Emily's vision blurs with tears she refuses to let fall. Her career, her dignity, her future, all crumbling in 45 seconds of public execution. She opens her mouth to defend herself, but no words come. Only the sound of her heart-shattering echoes in her ears as she stumbles toward the door, past the pitying glances and smirking faces, her entire world collapsing with each agonizing step. Emily Carter's life has been a masterclass in survival, not living. At 28 years old, she's already mastered the art of making herself invisible, shrinking in hallways, apologizing for existing, and swallowing her worth like bitter medicine every single day. Her studio apartment in the shadowy outskirts of the city tells a story her forced smile never does. The walls are paper-thin, yellowed with age, and decorated with water stains that bloom like dark flowers across the ceiling. She can hear her neighbors arguing through the walls at all hours, screaming matches that blend with the constant drip of her leaky faucet and the rattle of pipes that groan like dying animals. The furniture is a sad collection of secondhand pieces. A sagging couch she found on the curb, a wobbly kitchen table held together with duct tape, and a mattress on the floor that's seen better decades. But it's hers. Barely. The eviction notice taped to her door 3 days ago serves as a constant reminder that even this fragile existence is slipping through her fingers. Every morning begins the same way. Emily wakes at 5:30 a.m. to the jarring buzz of her ancient alarm clock, its numbers glowing an accusatory red in the pre-dawn darkness. She skips breakfast, not out of choice, but necessity. The $47 in her bank account needs to stretch until Friday, and she's already done the math. Coffee at home is free. Food can wait. She showers quickly, the water never quite getting hot enough, and stares at her reflection in the cracked bathroom mirror. Dark circles have taken up permanent residence under her hazel eyes. Her chestnut hair, once glossy and full of life, hangs limp around her tired face. She used to take pride in her appearance. Now she just looks defeated. She pulls on the same black slacks and cream blouse she wears 3 times a week, her professional uniform that's professionally falling apart. There's a small stain on the collar she can't quite get out, a hem that's coming undone, and buttons she's resewn so many times the fabric is wearing thin. But she buttons up anyway, applies a thin layer of drugstore makeup to hide the exhaustion, and forces her face into something resembling confidence. The commute is its own special hell. Emily takes 2 buses to reach the gleaming glass tower that houses Hastings Carmichael Marketing, a journey that eats 90 minutes of her day each direction. She can't afford the subway pass, and her car died 6 months ago, sold for parts to cover her mother's medical bills. So she stands in the freezing cold or sweltering heat, waiting for buses that run late, pressed against strangers who smell like yesterday's decisions, all while clutching her worn leather portfolio like it contains the secrets to survival. Through the bus window, she watches the city transform, from her neighborhood of boarded-up shops and chain-link fences to the polished downtown district where people in $1,000 coats sip $7 lattes without a second thought. She used to dream of being one of them. Now she just dreams of making rent. At Hastings Carmichael, Emily is a ghost. She's been a junior marketing associate for 3 years, passed over for promotion 5 times, despite bringing in 3 major clients and generating campaigns that increased revenue by 32%. Her boss, Richard Hastings, takes credit for her ideas in every meeting, presenting her late-night brainstorms and meticulous research as his own genius. When things go wrong, the blame flows downhill, straight to her desk. Her co-workers have learned to echo Richard's contempt. They exclude her from lunch invitations, speak over her in meetings, and share inside jokes in the break room that always seem to be at her expense. Jessica from accounts actually laughed when Emily suggested splitting an Uber home during last month's rainstorm. "Oh, honey, I don't think we're going to the same part of town," she'd said, with a pitying smile that felt like a slap. Emily had walked 3 miles in the downpour, arriving home soaked and shivering, her cheap shoes ruined beyond repair. But Emily endures because she has to. Her mother, Margaret, is battling stage 3 breast cancer in a care facility 2 hours away. The treatments are experimental, expensive, and not covered by insurance. Emily sends every spare dollar to cover the co-pays, the medications, the comfortable room that keeps her mother from giving up entirely. Margaret doesn't know how desperate things have become. Emily lies during their weekly phone calls, painting a picture of success and stability while sitting on her floor eating ramen noodles for the 4th night in a row. "I'm doing great, Mom. Got a big presentation coming up. They're really noticing my work." The lies taste worse than the sodium-packed broth, but they're necessary. Her mother's hope is the only thing Emily refuses to let poverty steal. At night, when the city finally quiets to a dull roar and her body aches from another day of being small, Emily pulls out a battered sketchbook from under her mattress. Inside are designs, fashion designs she's been creating since high school. Elegant dresses with flowing lines, structured blazers that command attention, evening gowns that make women feel like they can conquer worlds. Drawing has always been her escape, her secret language of beauty in a life starved of it. She once dreamed of fashion school, of seeing her creations on runways, of building something that mattered. But dreams require money, time, and belief. 3 luxuries she can't afford, so she sketches in the margins of her existence, creating beauty she'll never wear, designing a life she'll never live, and hoping that someday, somehow, something will change. Though deep down, as she closes the sketchbook and stares at the water-stained ceiling, Emily has stopped believing in someday. She's just trying to survive today. The humiliation in the conference room is just the beginning. Emily's hands are still shaking as she walks down the corridor toward her desk, each step feeling like she's wading through the concrete. The fluorescent lights above flicker and buzz, casting a sickly glow on the polished floors that reflect her distorted image back at her. A ghost of a woman who just lost everything. She can hear the whispers starting already, spreading through the office like wildfire. By the time she reaches her cramped cubicle tucked in the far corner by the malfunctioning printer, 3 coworkers have already averted their eyes, and 2 others are typing furiously on their phones, no doubt spreading the news of her very public execution. Emily sinks into her desk chair, the torn vinyl catching on her slacks, and stares blankly at her computer screen. The presentation she'd worked on until 3 in the morning for the past 2 weeks is still open. Slides full of data, consumer insights, creative strategies that could have revolutionized their approach to millennial markets. All of it dismissed as amateur garbage in front of the entire senior team. Her throat tightens as she replays Richard's words, each syllable a fresh cut. The worst part isn't even the insults, it's the laughter. The way her colleagues had joined in, eager to distance themselves from her failure, to align with power rather than defend what was right. In corporate warfare, there are no allies for the losing side. Her desk phone rings, the shrill sound making her jump. She stares at it for 3 rings before answering, her voice barely above a whisper. "Emily Carter speaking." The voice on the other end is clipped, professional, and devoid of warmth. "Diane from Human Resources. Miss Carter, please report to HR immediately. 5th floor, room 507. The line goes dead before Emily can respond. Her stomach drops. This is it, the official termination. Richard's public humiliation was just the opening act. Now comes the systematic dismantling of her career. She closes her eyes and takes a shaky breath, willing herself not to fall apart here. not where everyone can see, not where her pain can become tomorrow's break room entertainment. The HR office is exactly what she expected: sterile, impersonal, designed to strip away humanity and reduce people to numbers on spreadsheets. Diane Martinez sits behind a massive desk, her expression practiced and neutral, flanked by manila folders that Emily knows contain her entire professional existence. "Have a seat, Miss Carter." Emily sits, her hands clasped in her lap to stop them from trembling. Diane opens the top folder with deliberate slowness, scanning pages Emily can't see. "I'll get straight to the point. Your performance over the past 6 months has been concerning. Multiple reports of missed deadlines, subpar work quality, and today's disastrous presentation have forced us to make a difficult decision." Emily's mind reels. Missed deadlines? She stayed late every single night. Subpar work? Her campaigns have outperformed the department average. But she knows better than to argue. The narrative has already been written, and she's been cast as the villain in her own story. "We're letting you go, effective immediately," Diane continues, sliding a document across the desk. "You'll receive 2 weeks severance, though frankly, that's more generous than required given the circumstances. Your company email has been deactivated. Your access card will be collected before you leave the building, and security will escort you out once you've cleared your desk. Sign here acknowledging you understand the terms." The pen Diane offers feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds. Emily's vision blurs as she scans the document. Words like voluntary resignation and performance-based termination jump out at her. They're making her complicit in her own destruction, forcing her to sign away any chance of unemployment benefits or legal recourse. "This says voluntary resignation," Emily finally manages, her voice cracking. "I didn't resign. I was fired for trying to do my job." Diane's expression doesn't change. "The document says what it needs to say. Sign it, or you forfeit your severance entirely." "Your choice, Miss Carter." "It's not a choice. It's extortion dressed in corporate policy." Emily's hand shakes as she signs her name, each letter feeling like a betrayal of herself. 2 weeks severance won't even cover this month's rent, let alone the medical bills still piling up for her mother. As she stands to leave, Diane adds one final blow. "Oh, and Miss Carter, Mr. Hastings has requested that any materials, concepts, or work product you created during your tenure remain company property. That includes any notebooks, files, or personal documents containing company information. We'll need to inspect your belongings before you go." The message is clear. They're taking everything, even her ideas, her creativity, the pieces of herself she poured into this soul-crushing job. They want to ensure she leaves with nothing, not even the dignity of her own thoughts. The walk back to her desk with a security guard trailing 3 steps behind is the longest of her life. Co-workers suddenly become very interested in their computer screens, their phone calls, anything to avoid witnessing her perp walk. Emily pulls a cardboard box from the supply closet, the universal symbol of professional failure, and begins collecting the sparse personal items from her cubicle. A coffee mug her mother gave her last Christmas. A small succulent that somehow survived 3 years of office fluorescence. A framed photo of her and her mom from before the cancer, both smiling at the beach, sun-kissed and hopeful. She wraps each item like they're made of glass, moving slowly because once she's done, she'll have to leave, and she doesn't know what comes after that. Pathetic, isn't it? The voice makes her freeze. Richard Hastings is leaning against her cubicle wall, arms crossed, a satisfied smirk playing on his lips. 3 years here, and this is all you have to show for it. A dead plant and a cheap coffee mug. Emily doesn't respond, doesn't even look at him. But he's not done. He never is. "You want to know why I really fired you, Carter? Because you're mediocre. You're the kind of employee who thinks showing up and trying hard deserves a trophy. But this isn't kindergarten. This is business. And in business, people like you are just placeholders until someone better comes along." He picks up her proposal from her desk, the one she'd spent weeks perfecting, and flips through it with exaggerated disinterest. "This little presentation? I'm giving it to Marcus. He'll polish it up, present it properly next week, and probably get promoted for it. Your ideas weren't bad, Carter. You were just the wrong person delivering them. The rage that floods through Emily is so intense she can taste copper. He's not just firing her, he's stealing her work and mocking her while doing it. Every late night, every sacrifice weekend, every brilliant concept she developed is about to be handed to Marcus Chen, the office golden boy who spends more time playing golf with clients than actually working. And Marcus will take full credit, just like Richard always has, and the cycle of theft and erasure will continue. Emily's hands ball into fists, her nails digging crescents into her palms. She wants to scream, to flip her desk, to tell Richard exactly what kind of parasitic, talentless hack he really is. But the security guard shifts behind her, and she remembers the severance check she desperately needs. So she swallows the fire in her throat, places the last item in her box, and lifts it with as much dignity as she can muster. "Good luck out there," Richard calls after her, his voice dripping with false sympathy. "I'm sure you'll find something suitable for your skill level, maybe retail. I hear they're always hiring." The office erupts in barely suppressed laughter. Emily doesn't turn around. She keeps walking, past the cubicles and the glass offices and the break room where she ate lunch alone for 3 years. The security guard escorts her through the lobby, past the receptionist who won't meet her eyes, and out through the revolving doors into the harsh afternoon sunlight. The moment the building is behind her, the box slips from her hands, crashing to the sidewalk. The coffee mug shatters, shards of ceramic scattering across the concrete like pieces of her broken career. She doesn't pick them up. She just stands there on the busy downtown street, people flowing around her like she's a stone in a river, and lets the first sob escape. Her phone buzzes in her pocket, a notification she's dreading. She pulls it out with trembling fingers to see an automated text from her bank. "Overdraft alert. Your account balance is $127.43. Immediate payment required to avoid additional fees." The $2 fee for checking her balance has pushed her into the negative. She has no job, no savings, and now she owes the bank money she doesn't have. Her next thought is immediate and crushing. Her mother's care facility payment is due in 3 days. $4,000 she doesn't have and can't possibly get. If she misses the payment, they'll transfer her mother to the state facility, the one with the horror stories about neglect and bed sores and patients left in hallways, the one her mother begged her to never let her end up in. Emily's legs give out, and she sits down right there on the sidewalk, her back against the cold glass of the building that just spit her out. Pedestrians give her annoyed looks, stepping over her legs, one woman muttering, "Homeless people are everywhere now," to her companion. Emily doesn't care. Let them think what they want. She is homeless, or will be in 5 days when the eviction becomes official. She pulls out her phone again and scrolls through her contacts, a pitiful list of numbers she rarely calls. Her college roommate who moved to Seattle 2 years ago and hasn't returned a text since. A cousin who made it clear she was tired of Emily's financial drama. A few acquaintances from work who were never really friends. There's no one. No safety net. No cavalry coming to rescue her. She is utterly, completely alone. The sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple that mock her with their beauty. Emily finally forces herself to stand, leaving the broken pieces of the mug on the sidewalk. A small ceramic crime scene that maintenance will sweep up and forget by morning. She starts the long walk toward the bus stop, her professional clothes feeling like a costume from a play that's closed. The rush hour crowd swells around her, everyone heading home to lives that make sense, to partners who care and homes that are warm and futures that are bright. Emily is heading back to her water-stained studio apartment to figure out how to survive the unsurvivable, to tell her dying mother that she's lost everything, and to accept that maybe Richard was right. Maybe she is just mediocre. Maybe she was always destined for this kind of ending. Not with a bang, but with a whimper on a sidewalk surrounded by broken pieces. Emily doesn't make it to the bus stop. Halfway there, the adrenaline that's been holding her together finally drains away, leaving her hollow and shaking. Her vision swims, dark spots dancing at the edges as her knees buckle. She stumbles sideways, catching herself against a sleek black car parked at the curb. One of those vehicles that cost more than she'll earn in 5 years. Her palm leaves a smudge on the pristine paint, and she mumbles an apology to no one, trying to steady herself. The world tilts dangerously. When was the last time she ate? Yesterday's ramen? The free coffee from the office break room this morning? Her body is shutting down, finally demanding payment for all the months she's run it into the ground. Excuse me, are you all right? The voice cuts through the fog in her head, deep, measured, concerned. Emily tries to focus on the source, but all she can see is an expensive charcoal suit and polished Italian shoes. She attempts to straighten up, to muster the automatic "I'm fine" that's become her default response to everything, but her legs have other plans. The pavement rushes up to meet her, and she braces for impact that never comes. Strong arms catch her mid-fall, steadying her with a grip that's firm but surprisingly gentle. Whoa, I've got you. Easy now. The world stops spinning quite so violently, and Emily finds herself looking up into the most striking face she's ever seen. The man holding her can't be more than 35, with sharp, aristocratic features that belong on magazine covers. Strong jawline, high cheekbones, and eyes so intensely blue they seem to cut through the twilight. His dark hair is perfectly styled in that effortless way that actually takes effort, and there's a small scar above his left eyebrow that somehow makes him more compelling rather than less. But it's not his looks that strike her. It's the way he's looking at her. Not with pity or disgust or the uncomfortable avoidance she's seen all day, but with genuine concern and something else she can't quite identify. Recognition, maybe? No, that's impossible. Men who wear suits that cost more than her monthly rent don't know women like her. I'm sorry, Emily stammers, trying to pull away, mortified that she's now added collapsing on strangers to today's list of humiliations. But he doesn't release her immediately, waiting until he's certain she's steady on her feet. When's the last time you ate something? He asks, his tone direct, but not unkind. The question catches her off guard. She opens her mouth to lie, to say she's fine, but something about his unwavering gaze makes the automatic deflection and die in her throat. Yesterday, I think. The admission feels like pulling out a splinter, painful but necessary. His expression darkens, not with judgment, but with something that looks like anger on her behalf. Yesterday. He repeats it like he's testing the weight of the word, finding it unacceptable. Without another word, he opens the back door of the black car, a Bentley, Emily realizes with a start, and gestures inside. Get in! Emily takes a step back, survival instincts finally kicking in. I don't even know you. A small smile tugs at the corner of his mouth, the first hint of warmth breaking through his controlled exterior. Alexander Carrington. You can call me Alex, and you're currently about 30 seconds from passing out on a public street. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to get in this car, I'm going to take you somewhere to get food, and then I'll ensure you get home safely. No strings, no expectations, just basic human decency. Deal? The name registers somewhere in the back of her mind. Carrington. She knows that name. Everyone knows that name. Carrington Industries is one of the largest multinational conglomerates in the country, with holdings in everything from technology to real estate to media. Alexander Carrington isn't just wealthy, he's generational wealth, old money with new ambition, the kind of man who appears on Forbes covers and has buildings named after him. And he's currently standing in front of her, holding a car door open like she's someone who matters. I really shouldn't, Emily manages, even as her treacherous body sways toward the promise of help. I'm not trying to be difficult. Today has been... Her voice cracks, and she hates herself for it. The worst day of your life, Alexander finishes quietly. I know. I saw what happened upstairs. The world stops. Emily's blood runs cold as the implication sinks in. What? He sighs, running a hand through his perfect hair in a gesture that seems almost human. Almost vulnerable. The conference room on the 14th floor. The presentation. Richard Hastings tearing you apart in front of everyone. Emily's humiliation, which she thought couldn't possibly deepen, finds new depths. A stranger, no, not just a stranger, one of the most powerful men in the city, witnessed her complete professional annihilation. Oh God, she whispers, covering her face with her hands. Please, I can't. Not you too. Hey, look at me. His voice is softer now, and when she doesn't respond, she feels his hand gently pull her wrist down, forcing her to meet his eyes. I'm not here to humiliate you. I'm here because what I witnessed upstairs was one of the most egregious displays of workplace bullying I've seen in 20 years of business. That presentation was brilliant. The market analysis alone was worth more than anything that bloated parasite has produced in his entire career. And he didn't just reject it. He destroyed you for sport. The passion in his voice surprises her, as does the barely contained fury on her behalf. Why do you care? Emily asks, genuinely confused. Why would someone like you care about someone like me? Alexander's jaw tightens. Because 3 years ago, I acquired Hastings Carmichael as part of a portfolio purchase, which means technically Richard Hastings works for me, which means you worked for me. And what happened in that conference room today happened under my watch, in my building, to my employee. So yes, Emily Carter, I care very much. The use of her name startles her. She never told him. He sees her reaction and his expression softens slightly. I make it my business to know the people in my companies, especially the ones who are being systematically undermined and exploited. Get in the car, Emily, please. There's something in his voice, not pity, not charity, but something that sounds almost like respect, that makes her decision, against every warning bell, every rational thought, every self-preservation instinct screaming at her to run. Emily slides into the back seat of the Bentley. The interior smells like leather and subtle cologne, and the seats are softer than her mattress at home. Alexander settles in beside her, maintaining a respectful distance as the driver pulls smoothly into traffic. The silence stretches between them, not quite comfortable, but not hostile either. Emily stares at her reflection in the tinted window, the tear-stained face, the rumpled clothes, the absolute wreckage of a woman. I look like hell, she mutters. You look like someone who's been fighting a war without any armor, Alexander counters. There's a difference. He presses a button and a privacy screen rises between them and the driver. Then he turns to face her fully, his expression serious. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. The work you've been producing at Hastings Carmichael, the campaigns, the market research, the client strategies, how much of it was actually yours versus what made it into the final presentations? Emily blinks, thrown by the question. All of it. I mean, Richard would always present it, take credit in the executive meetings, but the actual work, the research, the creative concepts, the data analysis, that was me. Why? Alexander's expression darkens with barely suppressed rage. Because I've been reviewing department performance for the past 6 months, preparing for a leadership restructure, and I kept seeing this pattern. Brilliant work coming out of the marketing department, attributed to Richard Hastings. But the analytics didn't match. The work was too good, too innovative, too young. It had a voice that didn't fit a 53-year-old man who hasn't had an original idea since 1997. He pulls out his phone and swipes through several screens before turning it toward her. Is this your work? Emily stares at the screen displaying a campaign she developed 8 months ago, a complete rebranding strategy for one of their struggling tech clients. She'd worked on it for 12 weeks, pulling all-nighters, conducting focus groups on her own dime, creating a multimedia approach that eventually increased their client's market share by 47%. Richard had presented it to the board as his innovative vision and received a $50,000 bonus. She'd received nothing, not even a thank you. Yes, she whispers. That's mine. All of it. And this one, another campaign. This one, another. This one, another. Each one a piece of her soul she'd poured out onto spreadsheets and presentation decks. Each one stolen and repackaged as someone else's genius. By the 6th example, Emily's hands are shaking again, but not from hunger, from a rage so pure it burns away the exhaustion. He took everything, she says, her voice barely above a whisper. Every idea, every late night, every piece of creativity I had. He just took it. And I let him because I needed the job, needed the paycheck, needed to survive. I let him steal me piece by piece until there was nothing left. Alexander's eyes flashed with something dangerous. He didn't just steal your work, Emily. He committed fraud, corporate theft, and he systematically destroyed the reputation of the person he was stealing from to ensure you'd never be in a position to challenge him. That's not just unethical, it's criminal. He leans forward slightly, his intensity palpable. I came to that building today specifically to observe that presentation because the work being submitted under Hastings' name had caught the attention of our corporate board. We were considering promoting him to VP of Regional Marketing. Thank God I decided to show up unannounced. The car pulls up in front of a restaurant Emily recognizes from the glossy lifestyle magazines in the dentist's office. Le Bernardin, the kind of place where reservations are made months in advance and the cheapest entree costs more than her grocery budget for a month. I can't go in there, Emily says immediately, looking down at her wrinkled clothes and broken expression. I don't belong in a place like this. Alexander is already opening the door, pausing to look back at her with an expression that's equal parts gentle and immovable. Emily, you belong anywhere you choose to walk. The only difference between you and everyone in that restaurant is circumstance, not worth. Now come on, you need food, and we need to talk about what happens next. What happens next? The words hang in the air like a promise or a threat. Emily can't tell which. But as Alexander extends his hand to help her out of the car, backlit by the golden glow of the restaurant's entrance, like some kind of avenging angel in a three-piece suit, she realizes something fundamental has shifted. For the first time in 3 years, maybe in her entire life, someone is seeing her, really seeing her. Not as an assistant or a scapegoat or a disposable employee, but as a person with value, with talent, with a story worth hearing. It's terrifying and thrilling and completely overwhelming. Emily takes his hand, letting him pull her from the car and into whatever comes next. Because at this point, she has nothing left to lose and possibly everything to gain. The maitre d' takes one look at Alexander, and every trace of pretension evaporates, replaced with obsequious warmth. Mr. Carrington, what a pleasure. Your usual table? Alexander nods but keeps his hand lightly on Emily's lower back, a gesture that's protective rather than possessive, guiding her through the restaurant as curious eyes track their movement. Emily feels like an imposter, acutely aware of her wrinkled blouse and the mascara she knows has smudged beneath her eyes. But Alexander's steady presence beside her creates a bubble of legitimacy, as if his confidence is contagious enough to cover them both. Their table is tucked in a corner, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering city skyline. As Emily sinks into the plush velvet chair, she realizes this is the first time she's sat down in anything comfortable in months. The exhaustion hits her like a physical weight. Alexander orders for them both without looking at the menu, speaking in fluid French to the server, and Emily doesn't have the energy to protest. When the server disappears, Alexander loosens his tie slightly and leans back, studying her with that unsettling intensity again. "Tell me about your mother," he says quietly. The question blindsides her. Emily's throat tightens immediately. "How do you—" "I told you, I make it my business to know the people in my companies. Margaret Carter, age 56, stage 3 breast cancer, currently at Riverside Extended Care Facility. You've been covering her medical expenses out of pocket because her insurance denied the experimental treatment protocol. You're 4 months behind on the payments." His voice is matter of fact, but there's no judgment in it, just observation. Emily should feel violated, exposed, but instead she feels something close to relief. She's so tired of pretending everything is fine. "She doesn't know," Emily whispers, her voice cracking. "She doesn't know I lost my apartment, or that I've been eating 1 meal a day, or that I just lost my job. She thinks I'm thriving. She thinks her daughter is successful and happy and building a beautiful life. And I won't take that away from her. It's the only thing keeping her fighting." A tear escapes despite her best efforts, sliding down her cheek. She swipes at it angrily, frustrated by her own weakness. But Alexander reaches across the table with a cloth napkin, offering it without comment. "My father died of pancreatic cancer when I was 23, Alexander says, his voice low and rough around the edges. I was finishing my MBA, preparing to take over a fraction of the company I now run. He made me promise not to tell him how bad the business situation really was. We were months from bankruptcy, hemorrhaging money from bad investments his partners had made. He wanted to die believing his legacy was secure. Alexander's jaw tightens, and for a moment Emily sees past the billionaire facade to the young man who had to lie to his dying father. So I understand. I understand the weight of protecting someone you love from reality. It's its own special kind of hell. The food arrives, courses Emily can't even name, each plate a work of art that seems too beautiful to eat. But when Alexander starts eating, she follows suit, and the first bite of real food in days nearly makes her weep again. She eats slowly, savoring each morsel, acutely aware of Alexander watching her, with something that looks almost like satisfaction. "When did you start designing?" he asked between courses, and Emily nearly chokes on her wine, a burgundy that probably cost more than her security deposit. "How do you know about that?" Her voice comes out sharper than intended. Defensive. Alexander pulls out his phone again, and this time the screen shows her Instagram account, the private one she thought no one from work knew about. Her sketches are there, dozens of fashion designs she's posted over the years under the username Carter's Canvas. Her face burns. It's just a hobby. Nothing serious." "Nothing serious?" Alexander zooms in on one of her designs, an evening gown with architectural shoulders and a flowing silk skirt that manages to be both powerful and ethereal. "Emily, this is extraordinary. The construction alone shows an understanding of form and movement that most professional designers don't achieve. How long have you been doing this?" She wants to deflect, to minimize, to make herself small again. But something about the way he's looking at her, like her art actually matters, loosens something in her chest. "Since I was 14, she admits quietly. "My mom taught me to sew. We couldn't afford the clothes I wanted, so she said, then make them. I fell in love with it, the way fabric could transform, the way a good cut could make someone feel powerful. I wanted to go to Parsons, to fit, to actually study design. But then mom got sick, and money got tight, and marketing seemed more practical, more stable, more..." She trails off, the word survivable hanging unspoken in the air. "More soul-crushing," Alexander finishes, and there's a bitter understanding in his voice. "I see it all the time. Brilliant people trapped in jobs that slowly kill their spirit because the alternative is financial ruin. The system is designed to extract talent while offering just enough scraps to keep people desperate and compliant." He leans forward, his blue eyes intense. "But here's what I've learned. The most successful people I know, the ones who actually build something that matters, are the ones who refuse to let circumstance define their ceiling. They're the ones who take terrifying risks when logic says to play it safe." Emily shakes her head, a sad smile playing on her lips. "That's easy to say when you have a safety net made of money. People like me don't get to take risks. We get to survive if we're lucky." The words come out more bitter than she intended, but she's too exhausted to soften them. To her surprise, Alexander doesn't look offended. Instead, he nods slowly, acknowledging the truth in her statement. "Oh, you're right. I was born with advantages you'll never have. But I've also spent the last 15 years watching talented people like you get crushed by systems designed to benefit people like Richard Hastings. And I'm tired of it." He pulls a business card from his wallet, heavy cardstock with minimalist design, and slides it across the table. "I'm restructuring the entire leadership of Hastings Carmichael. Richard will be terminated by Monday morning, along with anyone who enabled his behavior. But more than that, I'm launching a new division, Carrington Creative. Fashion, lifestyle brands, innovative consumer products. I need someone who understands design, marketing, and what real people actually want. Someone with vision that hasn't been focus grouped into oblivion." Emily stares at the card, her heart hammering. "You're offering me a job?" Alexander's expression is unreadable. "I'm offering you a choice. You can take 2 weeks severance and disappear into the job market, where Richard's reputation damage will follow you, and every interview will start from a position of doubt. Or you can take a chance on yourself. Come work for me, not as some junior associate who gets credit stolen." As the creative director, build something from the ground up. Lead a team. Get paid what you're actually worth. He names a salary that makes Emily's vision swim, more than triple what she was making before, with benefits that include covering her mother's medical expenses entirely. Why? Emily's voice is barely a whisper. Why would you do this? You don't know me. I could be terrible. I could fail spectacularly. Alexander's smile is slow, genuine, transforming his severe features into something almost boyish. You want to know what I saw in that conference room today? I saw a woman who prepared a presentation so thoroughly that even ambushed and humiliated, she knew every statistic by heart. I saw someone who maintained composure while being verbally eviscerated by a bully. I saw quiet strength, Emily, the kind that doesn't come from privilege. It comes from surviving things that should have broken you. That's not someone who fails. That's someone who hasn't been given the chance to soar yet. The words hit Emily like a physical force, cracking through the armor of worthlessness she's built around herself. For the first time in years, maybe ever, someone is seeing her potential instead of her limitations. Tears stream down her face freely now, and she doesn't bother wiping them away. I don't know if I can do this, she admits, her voice shaking. I don't know if I'm brave enough to believe I deserve this. Alexander reaches across the table, and this time he takes her hand. Warm, solid, real. Then let me believe it for you until you can believe it yourself. Take the weekend, think about it. But Emily, his grip tightens slightly, his gaze holding hers with an intensity that steals her breath. You are not what happened to you today. You are not the lies Richard told, or the system that tried to erase you. You are every design in that sketchbook, every campaign you created, every time you got back up when life knocked you down. Don't let his cruelty define your story. Write a better ending. The restaurant around them fades away. The other diners, the soft piano music, the city lights beyond the windows. In this moment, there's only Alexander's words wrapping around her like a lifeline, pulling her back from the edge of giving up entirely. Emily doesn't know if she's brave enough to take this chance, but sitting here handheld by a man who sees value where everyone else saw disposability, she thinks maybe, just maybe, she could learn to be. Emily's phone shatters the fragile hope building between them. The vibration against the table is violent, insistent, and when she glances at the screen, her blood turns to ice. Riverside Extended Care Facility. Her hands shake as she answers, nearly dropping the phone. Hello? Her voice comes out strangled, terrified. Alexander's expression shifts immediately, his entire body tensing as he reads the panic on her face. Miss Carter, this is Director Patricia Woodson from Riverside. The woman's voice is professional but strained, the tone of someone delivering bad news they've delivered too many times before. I'm calling regarding your mother, Margaret Carter. I'm afraid we have a serious situation. Emily's world narrows to a pinpoint. The restaurant disappears. The food, the wine, Alexander. Everything dissolves except the voice on the phone and the dread flooding her veins. What happened? Is she okay? Your mother experienced a severe reaction to her treatment this afternoon. She's stable now, but we had to transfer her to the ICU. However, there's a more pressing issue we need to discuss immediately. Patricia pauses, and Emily can hear papers shuffling, the clinical detachment of someone about to destroy what's left of someone's world. Your account is 4 months delinquent. That's nearly $16,000 in unpaid care and treatment. Our billing department has been trying to reach you for weeks. I know, Emily's voice cracks, desperation bleeding through. I just need a little more time. I lost my job today, but I'm getting severance, and I can set up a payment plan, and Patricia cuts her off with the efficiency of someone who's heard every variation of this plea. Miss Carter, I sympathize with your situation, but our policy is clear. Without payment or proof of imminent payment within 48 hours, we'll have no choice but to transfer your mother to county care. Given her current condition and the specialized treatment protocol she's on, interrupting her care now could be, she doesn't finish the sentence. She doesn't have to. Could be fatal. The unspoken words hang in the air like an executioner's blade. Emily can't breathe. The room spins as the full weight of her powerlessness crashes down on her. 48 hours. She has 48 hours to produce $16,000 she doesn't have. Or her mother, her dying mother who's fighting so hard to stay alive, will be dumped into a county facility where she'll be just another body waiting to die. Please, Emily whispers, no longer caring about pride or dignity. Please, there has to be something. I'll do anything. I'm very sorry, Miss Carter. Friday at 5 p.m., that's the deadline. If payment hasn't been received by then, the transfer will begin Monday morning. The line goes dead. Emily stares at the phone in her hand like it's a foreign object, her mind unable to process what just happened. Friday. Today is Wednesday. She has 2 days to perform a miracle with empty pockets and a resume that's been torched. The phone slips from her fingers, clattering onto the table as a sound escapes her throat, half sob, half scream, that she can't contain. Emily! Alexander's voice cuts through the spiral, firm but gentle. Look at me. She can't. She's drowning, pulled under by a riptide of despair that's been building for months and has finally crashed over her head. Her breathing comes in sharp, painful gasps. A panic attack claiming her in the middle of a Michelin-starred restaurant. She's vaguely aware of other diners turning to look, of concerned murmurs. But she can't stop it. Can't stop the freight train of terror and helplessness barreling through her chest. Then Alexander is beside her. She didn't see him move. His hands on her shoulders, grounding her with steady pressure. Breathe with me. In for 4 counts. His voice is calm, authoritative, the kind of voice that's used to being obeyed. Emily tries to match his breathing, focusing on the rhythm he's creating. Hold for 4. Out for 4. Again. Slowly, painfully, the panic recedes enough for her to see clearly. Alexander is crouched beside her chair, his expensive suit pressed against the restaurant floor without a care. His full attention on bringing her back from the edge. $16,000. Emily manages, her voice hollow. I need $16,000 by Friday, or they're moving my mom to county care. Do you know what happens in those places? She'll die there, alone, thinking I abandoned her, thinking all her sacrifices to raise me were for nothing because her daughter couldn't even keep her safe at the end. The words pour out like poison, every fear she's been swallowing for months erupting in Alexander's presence. I have $127 in overdraft fees. I have a severance check that won't clear for a week. I have nothing. I am nothing. Alexander's jaw sets in a way that would be terrifying if it wasn't currently directed at the universe on her behalf. He pulls out his phone and Emily's too defeated to wonder what he's doing. He dials a number with sharp, precise movements, and when someone answers, his voice carries the weight of mountains moving. Patricia, this is Alexander Carrington. You just called Emily Carter regarding her mother's account at your facility. There's a pause, and then Emily can hear the sputtering confusion on the other end. Yes, that Alexander Carrington. Here's what's going to happen. Margaret Carter's account will be paid in full within the hour. Every cent of the $16,000 currently owed, plus the next 6 months of care and treatment, fully covered. You will not transfer her. You will not threaten this family again. And you will ensure Mrs. Carter receives the absolute highest level of care your facility can provide. Am I making myself clear? No, Emily breathes, trying to grab his phone to stop him, but Alexander gently deflects her hand while listening to Patricia's response. Excellent. My assistant will wire the funds immediately. Email the account details to alexander.carrington@carringtonin.com. And Patricia, if I hear that Miss Carter has been contacted about payment again for any reason, I will personally audit every financial decision your facility has made in the past decade. We both know how much scrutiny healthcare billing practices can't withstand. Have a pleasant evening. He ends the call and immediately dials another number. James, I need you to wire funds immediately. Riverside Extended Care Facility. Stop, Emily chokes out, tears streaming down her face. I can't accept. That's too much. Alexander finishes his instructions to his assistant and turns to her, his expression fierce with an emotion she can't name. Emily, your mother is dying. You're drowning trying to keep her alive while the system squeezes every drop of dignity from both of you. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. This amount? He gestures dismissively. This is what I spent on a watch I wore twice. Your mother's life is worth infinitely more than my ego or your pride. But I can't pay you back, Emily sobs, the words cutting like glass. I can never pay you back. You're making me a charity case, someone who needs to be rescued, someone who... Alexander takes her face in his hands, forcing her to meet his blazing eyes. You are not a charity case. You are a brilliant woman who's been systematically destroyed by a corrupt system and a parasitic boss. This isn't rescue, this is investment. I'm investing in you, Emily, in your talent, your resilience, your future. And when you build an empire with the chance I'm giving you, when you're standing at the top of what you've created, you can look back and know you earned every bit of it. His thumbs brush away her tears with surprising tenderness, and Emily realizes with startling clarity that this isn't just business for him anymore. There's something else happening here, something deeper and more complicated than a billionaire playing savior. She sees it in the way his hands linger on her face, in the intensity of his gaze, in the barely controlled emotion roughening his voice. He's not just offering her a job or paying her mother's bills. He's declaring war on every circumstance that's tried to break her, and he's choosing her side with the full force of his considerable power. Why are you doing this? Emily whispers, searching his face for answers. Alexander's expression softens, vulnerable in a way she suspects he rarely allows. Because 3 hours ago, I watched brilliance being destroyed for sport, and I realized that I've spent my entire life building an empire, accumulating power and wealth, and for what? To make more money I don't need? To win games that don't matter? His voice drops to almost a whisper. Or maybe, just maybe, to be in the right place at the right time to change someone's story. To make sure that, for once, the brilliant woman doesn't get erased. She gets everything she deserves. Emily can't speak, can't process the magnitude of what's happening. Her mother is safe. The financial guillotine hanging over her head for months has been lifted in a single phone call. And this man, this impossibly powerful, devastatingly intense man, is looking at her like she's worth saving, like she's worth investing in, like she's worth everything. The breaking point she thought would destroy her has somehow become the moment everything changes. Alexander doesn't just save Emily. He dismantles the entire system that tried to destroy her with the precision of a surgeon and the ruthlessness of a warlord. They're still in the restaurant when his phone begins its symphony of power, each call a surgical strike against everyone who wronged her. He doesn't ask for permission. He doesn't hesitate. He simply unleashes the full force of what it means to have unlimited resources and no patience for injustice. The first call is to his head of legal. Marcus, it's Alex. I need a full forensic audit of Hastings Carmichael's marketing department going back 3 years. Every campaign, every presentation, every performance review. I want metadata, email trails, timestamp comparisons, everything that proves systemic plagiarism and fraud. He pauses, listening, his expression darkening. I don't care if it's expensive. I want Richard Hastings buried so deep he'll never work in this industry again. And Marcus, I want it done by Monday morning. This isn't a request. He ends the call with a finality that sends a shiver down Emily's spine. The second call is to his Chief Human Resources Officer. Sandra, we have a situation at H&C that requires immediate intervention. Richard Hastings is terminated, effective immediately. Security is to escort him from the building first thing tomorrow morning. I want his access revoked tonight, his company accounts frozen, and every piece of communication he sent in the past year preserved for legal review. Additionally, I need you to interview every employee in that marketing department. Anyone who participated in or enabled the hostile work environment gets a choice: resign with severance or face termination with cause. Zero tolerance. His voice could cut diamonds. And Sandra? Emily Carter is being promoted to creative director of our new Carrington Creative Division. I want an offer letter drafted tonight with the compensation package we discussed. Full benefits, stock options, and a signing bonus of $50,000. She starts Monday. Emily's head snaps up. 50,000? Alex, that's... He holds up a hand, silencing her gently while listening to Sandra's response. Perfect. Email it to me within the hour. And one more thing. Margaret Carter's medical expenses are now a company benefit under Emily's employment package. Retroactive coverage for all past bills, full coverage going forward. No caps, no restrictions. Make it happen. He disconnects and immediately opens his text messages, his thumbs flying across the screen with practiced efficiency. "What are you doing now?" Emily asks, her voice small, overwhelmed by the machinery of power being deployed on her behalf. Alexander's smile is sharp, predatory. "I'm texting my contact at Forbes. Richard Hastings has been on their 40 under 40 marketing innovators watch list. By tomorrow afternoon, they'll be running a very different story. Marketing executive exposed for years of plagiarism and workplace abuse, complete with documentation, victim testimony, and expert analysis on how corporate structures enable mediocre men to steal from talented women." He shows her the screen where he's already typed out a detailed message with attachments. His phone rings. It's his assistant calling back. Alexander puts it on the speaker. "James, talk to me." James's voice is crisp, efficient. "The wire transfer to Riverside is complete. Mrs. Carter's account is paid in full, 6 months advance paid, and I've established a dedicated healthcare fund in Emily Carter's name with $200,000 for any future medical needs. The facility director has already called back to confirm and apologize profusely for any distress caused." Emily's hand flies to her mouth, fresh tears streaming. $200,000 for her mother, just like that. But Alexander isn't finished. "Excellent. Next item, I need you to coordinate with our real estate division. Find Emily a 2-bedroom apartment in the Chelsea or Tribeca area. Something with natural light, good security, close to our headquarters. Corporate lease, fully furnished, move-in ready by this weekend." He glances at Emily, his expression softening. "You're not going back to that studio with the eviction notice. Consider it part of your relocation package." "Alex, this is too much," Emily protests weakly, but there's no conviction in her voice anymore. She's watching a masterclass in what power looks like when it's used for protection instead of destruction, and it's intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. Alexander sets his phone down and turns to face her fully, his blue eyes blazing with intensity. "Emily, you need to understand something. I didn't build a multi-billion-dollar empire by accepting injustice or letting talented people get crushed by broken systems. Richard Hastings stole from you, abused you, and tried to erase you. That's not just wrong, it's personal now, because you're mine to protect now." The possessiveness in his voice should probably concern her, but instead it sends warmth flooding through her chest. "By Monday morning, everyone who hurt you will face consequences. And you'll walk into our headquarters as a director, with a team, a budget, and the full backing of Carrington Industries. You won't just survive what happened today, you'll rise from it stronger, wealthier, and untouchable." His phone buzzes with incoming emails. The apartment listings, the offer letter, confirmation from legal that the audit's underway. Alexander scans through them with the efficiency of someone who orchestrates miracles before breakfast. "Your life changed the moment I caught you on that sidewalk," he says quietly, almost to himself. "And I'm going to make damn sure it never goes back to what it was. Richard Hastings tried to destroy you. I'm going to show you what happens when someone with real power decides to build you up instead." He looks up, and the promise in his eyes is absolute. "Welcome to the rest of your life, Emily Carter. It's going to be extraordinary." Final closure, emotional lift. Word count, 400, 600. Duration, 35, 0038, 00. 3 days later, Emily stands in front of a floor-to-ceiling window in her new Chelsea apartment, watching the sunrise paint the city in shades of gold and rose. The view alone would have been impossible to imagine a week ago. The Empire State Building to her left, the Hudson River glittering to her right, the entire city spread before her, like a promise finally kept. Behind her, moving boxes sit half unpacked, but she's in no rush. For the first time in years, she has time. She has space. She has breath. Her phone rings, and she smiles before she even looks at the screen. It's become a morning ritual. Alexander, checking in before his day, explodes into meetings and decisions that move markets. "Good morning," she answers, her voice lighter than it's been in years. "Tell me you actually slept last night." His low chuckle warms her from the inside out. 4 hours, a personal record. How's the apartment? Emily turns, taking in the elegant furniture, the kitchen with appliances that actually work. The second bedroom she's already mentally converting into a design studio. It's perfect, almost too perfect. I keep waiting to wake up. You're awake, Alexander assures her, his voice soft with something that sounds like contentment. And this morning, Richard Hastings woke up to termination papers, a lawsuit, and 3 major clients dropping him after the Forbes article went live. So I'd say we're living in the better reality. Emily should probably feel guilty about the savage satisfaction that floods through her, but she doesn't. Some people earn their destruction. My mother called this morning, she says quietly. She sounds stronger. The doctors are optimistic about the new treatment protocol now that she can actually receive it consistently. There's a pause, weighted with emotion neither of them is quite ready to name. I'm glad, Alexander finally says. She deserves to see what her daughter builds next. Speaking of which, are you ready for Monday? Emily walks to her bedroom where her new work wardrobe hangs in the closet. Clothes she actually chose, that fit properly, that make her feel powerful instead of invisible. On her desk sits the contract she signed yesterday. Creative Director, Carrington Creative Division, with a salary that still makes her dizzy and benefits that protect not just her, but her mother too. I'm terrified, Emily admits, but also, I'm ready. I've spent 3 years watching mediocre men take credit for my vision. I think it's time I show the world what I can do when I'm not being systematically destroyed. Pride saturates Alexander's voice. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Your team is assembled, your budget is approved, and Emily, I want you to dream bigger than you ever allowed yourself before. No limitations, no apologies, just pure, unfiltered brilliance. Emily catches her reflection in the window. She looks different now. Not just the new clothes or the apartment or the absence of constant terror. It's something deeper. She looks like a woman who remembers her own worth. Alex, she says softly, thank you for seeing me when I couldn't see myself, for believing in me when I'd stopped believing, for, her voice cracks with gratitude too big for words. Don't thank me yet, he interrupts gently. Thank me after you've built an empire. Thank me when you're standing at Fashion Week watching models wear your designs. Thank me when you've created something so extraordinary that everyone who ever underestimated you has to witness your success. He pauses and she can hear the smile in his voice. But Emily, you did this. I just cleared the obstacles. The brilliance was always yours. As they say goodbye and Emily turns back to the sunrise, she thinks about the woman who collapsed on a sidewalk 3 days ago. Broken, defeated, convinced she was worth nothing. That woman still exists inside her, probably always will, but now she's joined by someone new, a woman who knows what it feels like to be chosen, to be protected, to be seen as valuable. A woman who's been given not just a second chance, but the resources to make it count. Emily opens her sketchbook, a new one, leather-bound and pristine, and begins to draw. The design that flows from her pencil is bold, architectural, unapologetically powerful. It's a dress for a woman who survived fire and emerged forged in steel. It's a dress for a woman who refused to stay small. It's a dress for who she's becoming. And as the city awakens below her, Emily Carter smiles and